Hello, hello, and welcome back to Profound. Today I have actually made a PowerPoint and I'm going to be trying a new type of format, and we will be going over the quantum biology of light, mitochondria, and health. This is just like other videos of mine, but we'll actually have some visuals in the background for you guys so you can understand these topics better and you can find the importance of what this is really about and how light really is the moderator of our health and how we are kind of a being of light that is being controlled by the input of light. Um, so we're going to go over how light-driven biology connects melatonin, melanopsin, and mitochondrial function to health. Why does it matter? Modern environments disrupt these systems, contributing to chronic diseases like cancer and multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. All these diseases are all from inflammation, which is actually driven by light. And this is all based on Dr. Jack Kruse's quantum biology principles, which is a fusion of quantum sciences, biology, physics, and he is one of the most brilliant people that I have ever listened to or seen work done by, and he is a constant inspiration for me in my day-to-day life. So first we're going to go over the role of light in biology. If you weren't familiar, there is an electromagnetic spectrum that consists of all information in the universe, and this is all encoded in light. Light is just the information that is put out into this universe, and we only see part of the light, which is the visible spectrum, from violet to red, the rainbow. And light is more than vision. It regulates the cellular and systemic functions. So there's a purpose to each of the lights in the visible spectrum to our own health. And I'm going to go into each of the different types of light. So first there's UV light, which activates metabolic and hormonal pathways, which is what regulates the body. We have blue light, which influences circadian rhythms and can be disruptive at night mostly. Red and infrared light, which supports mitochondrial health, which we'll go into a lot in a couple minutes. And what is the issue here is that the artificial blue light exposure is disrupting our natural light cycles that we have evolved from, which is then in turn leading to chronic disease epidemic in our society. So first we're going to go over melatonin, the sleep and antioxidant hormone. What is melatonin? It is a hormone produced by the pineal gland and retina. I think we've all heard of taking melatonin to fall asleep or that melatonin helps us sleep, but it does more than just regulate our sleep-wake cycles. It also acts as a potent antioxidant and protects mitochondrial DNA. It also supports insulin sensitivity and metabolic health, which is really important for keeping our bodies working and away from chronic illness. And the light connection is that UV light, it stimulates serotonin to melatonin in the eye, and blue light suppresses melatonin at night. So at night when you're scrolling on your phone and you're getting this artificial blue light, it's suppressing your melatonin and your ability to act and sleep wake, which is disrupting your natural circadian rhythms, causing inflammation and chronic disease. Melanopsin. This is a precursor of melanin, and it's the light sensor. It's a photopigment in our retinal ganglion cells, and it detects blue light to regulate our circadian rhythms. It also controls pupil constriction and photoentrainment. And this melanopsin is in the skin. It's found in skin cells. So your body is technically a solar panel because the melanopsin in your skin is detecting the blue light, which is regulating your circadian rhythm. And melanopsin also requires DHA or omega-3s for optimal function. So the fatty acids help the melanopsin. And the impact of disruption is blue light at night degrades DHA and impairs cellular signaling, which cellular communication is extremely important for energy. So now we can talk about POMC, the light-driven metabolic regulator in our body. So what is POMC? It's a precursor protein, which is cleaved into peptides, which these peptides' functions are to suppress appetite, regulate stress, and immune regulation and anti-inflammation, which this POMC is activated by UV light exposure. which links the exposure to metabolism and immune health. As you can see, the appetite suppression, stress response, and immune regulation is all key to preventing chronic illness in general. Next, we're going to go into a heme protein, cytochrome C, which is our mitochondrial energy driver. As you can see in the diagram on the left, the cytochrome C is in the between complex 3 and 4 for ATP production, and this is also what triggers apoptosis when released into cytosol. So the cells that need to die are killed because of cytochrome C, and UV light enhances the electron flow, which in our electron transport chain, UV light just makes our electron transport chain more efficient, which means we're producing more ATP and more energy. And blue light disrupts this and causes a mitochondrial stress, which can be an issue, especially for mitochondrial dysfunction. So what are heme proteins? Heme proteins are proteins with iron-containing heme groups. Examples are cytochrome C, energy production, hemoglobin in our blood for oxygen transport, and cytochrome P450 for detoxification. And the role of these heme proteins is to facilitate redox reactions and cellular homeostasis. So the redox reaction is giving an electron, so you're actually gaining energy. And light sensitivity is optimized by natural light, and it's disrupted by this artificial light. So you're going to see that the redox reaction is an oxidation reduction reaction involving electron transfer. So it's the gain of an electron, and the loss of an electron is oxidation. And it drives ATP production via the cytochrome C in the electron transport chain, and it maintains cellular redox balance. So blue light increases this oxidative stress and disrupts the redox balance. If you know about life is all about balance, and anything that disrupts balance is going to disrupt life. And the red light, it supports electron flow and it reduces stress. So the redox imbalance is linked to all these chronic diseases. It does come down to this micro scale of just the addition or the subtraction of electrons, because everything, your whole health is going to come down to the basis of what is going on. And these types of reactions, the redox reactions. So there is a biohack for helping your mitochondria. It's called deuterium depleted water. So instead of an H, there's H2, which is deuterium. And this deuterium is heavier, and it makes your electron transport chain work slower. So when you drink deuterium depleted water, it's just the hydrogen isotope. And it has the reduced deuterium content, which enhances your proton tunneling in the electron transport chain and improves the cytochrome C efficiency. So your cells are just way more efficient, and they're producing way more energy. And it reduces oxidative stress and supports this redox we were just talking about. And it amplifies the light-driven processes by optimizing mitochondrial water. And we're going to get into what this water is used for in a second. And the DDW enhances cellular health in modern environments. So this is actually given to people who actually have cancer. It has anti-cancerous properties. The next slide I'm going to talk about is ultra-weak biophoton emission, cellular signaling. Basically how cells communicate to each other. What is an ultra-weak biophoton? It's a low-intensity light emitted by cells during biochemical reactions. So mitochondrial redox reactions, particularly including ROS. Functions. Potential cellular communication mechanism, reflects mitochondrial health and redox state, and coherent ultra-weak biophotons are enhanced by natural light and disrupted by blue light. If you look on the images in the right, you can see how the rat, when it is alive, it is releasing these ultra-weak biophoton emissions. And these ultra-weak biophoton emissions are essentially the cells communicating, and the water they use to communicate is the deuterium-depleted water. And this is how cells are communicating. If you see on the right, if you see all the dots are different cells. And these cells create sort of like neural networks to communicate with each other. So they are using light to communicate at the lowest level. And we're actually going to go into why we started using light. Our cells started using light to communicate when we have the sun. Right after this, the light mitochondria axis. So the information is given to the melatonin or melanopsin and aligns your circadian rhythms. The POMC regulates the metabolism and immunity. The cytochrome C in the electron transport chain drives the energy production. And then the ultra-weak biophotons reflect cellular health and communication. And we're going to go into the evolutionary perspective of why we started producing light in our cells. And it all goes back to the Permian-Triassic mass extinction, or the Great Dying. This is when our planet was hit by the asteroid of the dinosaurs, as you know. And what happened is 90% of the species went extinct. The UV spiked, low oxygen, and volcanic chaos. And the only mammals that survived had to go underground because the surface they weren't able to live. So what we did when we were underground is we started producing light within our bodies and in our cells. And the whole story starts here. And our cells started using ultra-weak photons to communicate because there was no light outside for them to communicate. So when we started producing light inside, we now have a permanent effect on what light transmission into our body. As we can see that UV light is good for these ultra-weak biophotons, which is how our cells communicate, which is how energy is produced, which is how we heal our body and lower inflammation. And inflammation is just essentially chronic illness. So we use this UV sensitivity to enable our metabolic adaptation, and the peptides regulated energy, immunity, and pigmentation in low light settings. So we were able to adapt, the mammal. So this is actually the doctor on the right, Dr. Jack Kruse. So disruptions: blue light at night suppresses melatonin, impairs melanopsin, and disrupts POMC. High deuterium slows the cytochrome C and increases the oxidative stress, so the redox can't happen. And the result of this is obesity, diabetes, neurodegeneration, immune disorders. And some of his solutions are morning sunlight for UV exposure, avoid blue light at night, and consume some deuterium-depleted water, which is actually really expensive, though, to optimize mitochondrial function. And the goal is to restore light-driven biology for health. Now I hope you can see the importance of how light functions in our cells. Some of the key takeaways we can get here are that UV light boosts melatonin, POMC, and cytochrome C. Blue light regulates our melanopsin, and red supports redox and mitochondrial health. And we went over how each of these are so crucial for our health. So some practical steps: get 20 to 30 minutes morning sunlight, minimize screen time, consider the deuterium depleted water, and prioritize natural light exposure. Steps. So the sun's light spectrum. I think we went over this. Yes, red supports the mitochondrial redox, reduces oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is what causes these chronic diseases. And we can go over how sunlight actually changes throughout the day. So in the morning from 6 to 9 a.m., we have high UV and red light and low blue light, which boosts your melatonin in your retina, activates the POMC, and optimizes cytochrome C for the electron transportane. Midday, we have the peak UV and blue light, which correlates with strong melanopsin stimulation and aligns our circadian rhythms. And at night, it's time to calm down with the dominant and red infrared light, which prepares our body for melatonin and reduces the oxidative stress with the redox balance. And so you can see on the left in the daytime how high the blue light is, and at night in the evening how low the blue light is. So you can see how the blue light at night in our phones could affect our circadian rhythms. And now we have to go into leptin. Leptin is a hormone that we produce, and it's our master metabolic regulator. Leptin is one of the most important parts of this story. What is leptin? It's a hormone produced by adipose. It's a fat tissue. And its functions are: it signals satiety to the brain, reducing appetite. So after you're done eating, it signals to the brain that we are full, we have the energy we need, instead of after, oh, I think I need more food. And it regulates the energy expenditure and the fat metabolism. And it interacts with the hypothalamic POMC neurons as well. So in the morning, UV light enhances leptin sensitivity via the POMC activation, and blue light at night disrupts leptin signaling linked to melanopsin and melatonin. So when you're looking at blue light at night, it's activating there's too much leptin, and your body can't signal to each other with the ultra weak biophotons. So this sounds like far out there, but this is the science. Kruse's view: leptin aligns metabolism with light cycles and disrupted by modern environments, which he actually found something really crazy called the leptin pathway, melanocortin pathway. So the leptin binds to the receptors in the hypothalamic POMC neurons. We talked about POMC earlier. Stimulates POMC cleavage into the peptide, which activates the melanocortin receptors, and then it suppresses the appetite and enhances fat burning. So essentially, you're not going to want to eat, and your body starts burning the excess fat. So when your leptin levels are too high, this pathway doesn't work, and all of a sudden your appetite isn't suppressed, and you're not burning fat. So you're constantly just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And what happens is mitochondrial efficiency is influenced by leptin signaling, and the ultra-weak biophotons may reflect pathway efficiency with cellular signaling. And the health impact is if this pathway is disrupted, it could lead to obesity and diabetes. As he basically came out and gave the cure, which is you need to go out in intervals in the sun. The sun is the cure. There is no alternative, and you need to get these certain lights throughout the day. So 2-hour interval in the morning, 2 in the middle of the day, and then 2 at night when there's sunset. And then and cold plunges, which allow for the burning of fats. And Paleolithic diet, that is his prescription for healing the leptin melanocortin pathway. And and also the deuterium depleted water. So you might be like, why is everything blue lit, and is there anything nefarious behind it? And truly, it is a deliberate assault on biology. Blue light in LED screens is a deliberate choice by the tech giants to maximize profit and control. LEDs are super cheap, and they drive sales because everyone gets super addicted to the blue light, because blue light is addicting because it is the shortest wavelength, and it maximizes profit and control. And they keep you hooked with this blue light. Bright lit blue light screens amplify engagement, hijacking your brain's wiring. So actually, the CIA's MK Ultra explored blue light to manipulate behavior and the setting for modern tech, which led to Vegas using heavy blue lit casinos because it keeps gamblers awake and spending, and it gets rid of this part of their brain where they're accounting for how much they're losing because there's just so much dopamine from the intensely blue lit screens. And the blue light, it obliterates your melatonin, melanopsin, and your POMC signaling, destroying your circadian rhythms, your leptin pathways, and your mitochondrial health. And this is how chronic diseases manifest on a large scale. How blue light is addictive and a dopamine trap. Blue light activates monoamine oxidase B, and that destroys dopamine in your retina and your brain. So low dopamine disrupts your melatonin, your POMC, and the leptin melanocortin pathway, and it leads to foggy thinking, hunger cravings, and then metabolic chaos, which is just chaos for your body in general. Blue light overstimulates melanopsin, spiking dopamine via addictive digital content, social media, notifications, and it creates a vicious cycle of screen obsession, robbing sleep and health. I think we went over all this different stuff. I'm just going over this over and over again. But this is why blue light is so addictive. It's because it's the shortest wavelength, and it destroys dopamine. So you're just trying to chase this dopamine back, but you're just staring at the blue light. So you might be like, oh, there's blue light in every screen, because screens seem to be lit using RGB to create all the different colors. But they dominate the RGB screens, and the RGB screens don't have the sun's UV or infrared, which is what's so important for the activation of these proteins or the supporting redox in the mitochondria. And it overstimulates this melanopsin, suppressing melatonin, and it disrupts the signaling of the ultra-weak biophotons. Why are these RGB screens so lethal? Is they're missing the UV and the IR, which starves your mitochondria. And your mitochondria is your powerhouse of your cell. So if your powerhouse of your cell, which is at the lowest level, is disrupted, how's your body supposed to be healthy on a large scale? Nighttime exposure mimics midday, wrecking circadian rhythms and the UWB signaling. And the true dangers are obesity, diabetes, neurodegeneration, retinal damage, and immune collapse. All this and inflammation, which leads to the chronic diseases. So I call to action that the ancient spark, 252 million years ago, after the Permian and Triassic apocalypse, POMC forged mammals in the crucible of underground survival, harnessing UV light to fuel metabolism, immunity, and light itself. We've been trapped. Blue light tech, seeded by the MK Ultra mind control and Vegas greed, wields RGB screens to sap your dopamine, shatter melatonin, and cripple POMC, leptin, and mitochondrial fire. Also, another thing, sunglasses can get rid of the UV rays which you need for POMC, and and blue light nights mimic a false dawn, plunging you into obesity, brain fog, and disease. What you can do is rise with the sun, bask in 20 to 30 minutes of morning light to ignite your POMC, melatonin, and leptin. Shield your nights by wearing blue light glasses. Embrace your naked eye. Drink the light if you need it. Drink the deuterium-depleted water to purify your mitochondrial waters, supercharging your cells, and seize your destiny. Reject the blue light matrix, reclaim nature's rhythm, and burn bright. The main message is nature is always right, and nature is our healer. And I will end it on that, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I know this was a lot to take in, but this type of content, I can start producing more. I want you to give me feedback in the comments, and as always, like and subscribe.